I don't believe in Bitcoin. I still see no use case, no end market for it. It's just a speculative market, but that's fine. I'm just not a believer. If I were a believer in Bitcoin, I wouldn't have shaved it. So I basically cut it almost in half. And the reason I did was I think the news is priced in. So you get the approval for the ETF, and then maybe you sell in the news, because I'm not the only one that bought it in expectation of ETF approval. And that's been the move from 28,000, which is roughly where I bought it almost all of it under 30, to where it is now. Now, the other issue that I had with it is that what if it doesn't get approved?
Well, I was thinking that. What if it doesn't?
What if it doesn't get approved?
Surprise,
and then it's toast for a while, so it'll recover because they're just true believers driving. And the third thing is, you don't need an ETF. An ETF is great for multiple positions, but you can buy this, Bitcoin. Now there'll be a crypto ETF, but as far as Bitcoin goes, it's very easy to buy. You can buy it with no commissions on Fidelity. You can buy it in Robinhood. You can buy it everywhere. So I don't know what an ETF does for Bitcoin itself. Now,
doesn't it theoretically open it up?
It does.
A larger
because people are so used to buying ETFs at this point. There'll be more demand for it, without a doubt. But my point is that I just thought it was prudent for a non-believer to take a lot off the table and book the game.
To your point, the last big approval, quote unquote, that everyone was waiting for was futures. Yeah. And that ended up being a negative catalyst. That actually was the top. In 2017, December of 2017, in Chicago, they started trading futures on Bitcoin. A lot of people in the lead up were saying, oh, this is so bullish. Actually, that enabled a new level of price discovery. They shorted it to hell, and it collapsed to 11,000. So just because we have this catalyst in front of us doesn't guarantee, all of a sudden there's going to be this buying bonanza and there won't be sellers. There'll be plenty of people utilizing the ETFs to express bearish bets. I think those will be overwhelmed in the opening weeks.
Yep.
But I agree, a lot of this is priced in. And by the way, this ain't even going to be that great of a business. No. BlackRock and Fidelity will carve it up. It'll probably be 25 basis point business inside of 18 months. This is not going to be 1% ETF internal expense ratios as far as the eye can see. And there aren't going to be 10 winners. And the only evidence I have of that is 30 years of publicly traded ETFs. There are not 10 SPYs. There are not 10 oil ETFs. There are not 50 different versions of the gold ETF.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you're joining the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And guys, it's 2024. We have CNBC turning up the Hegelian dialectic, and all the money channels are doing the same. We have Steve Weiss actually says he doesn't believe in Bitcoin, but he bought it. Unbelievable. But when it comes to these spot Bitcoin ETFs, they did tell the truth. Majority of them are not going to survive. You're only going to have maybe 2 or 3. And remember, guys, everything is going to be tokenized and put on blockchain. For the 4th industrial revolution, where the robots, algorithms, and drones take the economy over, pay each other with crypto, and the sheep go inside the metaverse. But guys, we have the mainstream media talking about the spot Bitcoin ETF over and over and over again, and now we're going to start hearing a lot about the Bitcoin halving. But remember, in order for us to take off on the Bitcoin halving, we need these central banks, including the Fed, to start cutting rates. Every run was based off the Fed. And remember, the emerging markets are going to give us the signal because the 4th industrial revolution rises in the BRICS nations. And this next bull run is going to be a utility run. So we're going to start seeing a lot of altcoins come out with real use cases. And we have Anderson Capital Management playing the Hegelian dialectic also, saying that they don't see a recession and they don't see rate cuts. Guys, it's a presidential year. We know for a fact they're going to be cutting rates because they at least want the economy to look decent. Because we know the voters look at the economy to decide which way they're going to vote. And we're already past a recession. We're in a great depression. I proved it time and time again. And then, guys, we have the drums are beating. And when it comes to this Red Sea drama, You're talking about supply chains. You're talking about energy. And again, this is all about creating the two sides to bring on this digital transformation. Remember, guys, all these distractions that's going on. You have the election. You have the drums are beating. We have government shutdowns. All of it is to bring on the fourth industrial revolution. So don't let the master magicians distract you. All we have to do over the next few years is follow the money. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. Because, when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Has to do with the fact that there's optimism that we could actually hear as soon as this week whether or not some of these spot Bitcoin ETF applications will be approved. The SEC has a deadline of January 10th to give ARK and 21 shares a decision on whether to approve or disapprove their spot application. And there's optimism that it will be a green light this time. You've got some of the biggest names throwing their hat in the ring. BlackRock, June 15th. Since June 15th, when BlackRock put an application in, we've seen an 80% spike in the price of Bitcoin.
Wow.
And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they think that institutional money will flood into the space once we see some approvals.
Are there Bitcoin ETFs in other countries around the world? What do they own? Do they actually own Bitcoin? Do they own some futures? What do they own? And how have they worked?
In Canada, we have a spot Bitcoin ETF. One of the reasons why people think that this is going to be a sell the news event is because the flows with that ETF haven't been as anticipated. And I think that that's one of the biggest narratives, that we've seen this huge price run up going into this event. But think back to December 2017. There was a lot of optimism around a futures Bitcoin ETF, and that ended up being a negative catalyst for the space. Even Bernstein, that deems a spot Bitcoin ETF as being the greatest financial pipeline ever built between traditional financial markets and the crypto ecosystem, thinks that there will be, that the market will take a pause once these spot ETFs are approved, while people wait to see if the flows build momentum.
So when you say spot ETF, you mean they are actually going to own Bitcoin,
exactly,
not futures.
And that's what's so different about this, because it would mean that people don't have to go to an exchange to custody Bitcoin. Instead, BlackRock, Fidelity would work with Coinbase to custody the Bitcoin, and then you have a very, familiar product that you can buy into the space with, and that's why people believe that it will be a game changer.
Okay, what is this? What is this halving? It sounds like the rapture in the Bible. What is it?
It's a little in the weeds. I'm not going to go too far down, but this is a technical event that happens about every 4 years, and this is built into the code of Bitcoin. It basically cuts the reward that the miners get in half, and that is all designed to create a sort of scarcity effect on the supply. So I think that supply and demand dynamic
is going to create fewer Bitcoin?
Yeah, and I think that's something you're really going to see in play this year. We have all of these big catalysts, the ETF, the halving.
I don't know who they is.
You wonder about the miners who've had this big run-up, and yet they're about to face this halving of their rewards.
And, ironically, you're seeing this huge price run-up in these mining stocks. Marathon Digital and Riot both up more than 10% today. And this cutting of issuance makes the space far more competitive. One other point that I'll make, though, and tonight I was speaking to this, typically we see a run-up in price every 4 years pegged to this market-making event known as the halving. Last time around, the price of Bitcoin spiked more than 560%. So you have these two major events for the crypto ecosystem that are poised to potentially help bring that price back up.
Shouldn't we believe that the Bitcoin ETF approval isn't a sell the news event? It seems like there's so much riding on this approval. There's so much of the rally predicated on that when it happens, what next?
Yeah, right. I mean, listen, as a trader, my gut always tells me if things go higher, I get a little bit scared, right? So I do think a lot of the speculative fever around the ETF is probably reaching a crescendo this week. So yeah, could we get a sell-off? Sure. But I think that would be a sell-off, a dip to buy, because remember, there are still a lot of people that have not been able to buy Bitcoin for their portfolio. So even a 1 to 2 to even 5% allocation in IRAs or from private wealth managers, they're going to be buying the ETF over the year. And since you have Tim on the desk, it'll serve as a four-on-the-floor drumbeat for the rest of the year.
Nice. I appreciate that, BK. So let me come right back at you. And before you leave, please make sure you wish Guy a Happy New Year. I know you're also somewhat enthusiastic about what could happen with Ethereum and a lag effect here, but I care more about your view about the broadening of the entire crypto space? I mean, is it Polkadot or some of these other names? Are they going higher? Are you investing there? Because that, to me, on some level, is a lot more important than what Bitcoin does from here.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Tim. When we talk about stocks, we talk about the breadth of the market and the breadth widening it out to the mid and the small caps, and that's usually the sign of a healthy bull market. We're seeing that in crypto right now. So you rightly bring up names like Polkadot or Cosmos Atoms or even Solana or some of these and those aren't second tier, those are probably, higher in the first tier. But you're starting to see the rally broaden out. And most importantly, you're actually seeing from some of these cryptocurrencies actual things being built on them. So we're seeing decentralized exchanges getting a lot of activity. We're seeing decentralized lending and places in the DeFi space starting to get a lot of loans going out there and a lot of total value locks. So all these indicators are telling me that the bull market is broadening, the fundamentals are supportive, and I think we're probably in the beginning of this 12 to 18 month bull market, which should spread to the rest of the currencies. And to answer your question directly, I am investing in all of those.
I don't think there's going to be a recession this year. I also don't think that the Fed is going to cut rates. I must be on a different planet, Tyler, because I just cannot rationalize the thoughts of why we would have a rate cut as opposed to actually even several rate cuts. And I do think tech, some of the themes that you were talking about earlier, let me just add on to that. I think one of the more alarming themes is when AI gets introduced to hackers, that will probably accelerate their capabilities of hacking and will cause far more necessary diligence on protecting data. So data security companies, I think, are going to do well again this year.
Right now, the tensions in the Red Sea that could spread to the Indian Ocean are immediately the most potential market moving. Aside from the comments of your previous guests, you do see changes of trade patterns. A number of ships are hesitating whether to enter the Red Sea, considering going around the Horn of Africa. And even though the U.S. has built a coalition to protect ships, the shipping companies are not yet sure about it, and Iran, as it has been for the past 2.5 months, has thrown another spanner in the works, and they've brought a warship into the Red Sea. So I think there's a real possibility of kinetic strikes, both from the Houthis toward shipping and from the U.S.-led coalition, which was bolstered by Britain over the weekend, against Houthi targets, whether those initially be on sea or possibly on land.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting at more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets. Now,
it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the new World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get on stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.